Welcome back to the Religious Treehouse. I'm Jodie.
I'm Matthew.
How are you doing today, Matthew?
I am doing so good. I just had a fantastic lunch. Happy to be here, and we're vibing. We're gonna watch a movie, or well, we already watched a movie, but we're gonna talk about a movie that we watched, and I'm so excited for this conversation. How are you doing?
Well, you wasted an hour and 45 minutes of my life, so I'm ready to get some content out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, would you pick for us this week, Matthew?
So I decided to watch. So I think last time, was it last time or maybe two times ago, where we have like different categories of movies, of like movies that I've seen that I know are great that we should talk about, movies that I haven't seen that could go either way. Um, and then there's this movie, a movie that I have seen before and that I did in fact know was awful. So we're watching His Only Son, produced by Angel Studios 2023. I'm excited to talk about this. This is talking about Abraham and Isaac, particularly when Abraham was supposed to sacrifice Isaac. We love this story. It's so much fun. Horrible adaptation of it. But let's
Except
get
at
into
the
it.
end, you find out the movie wasn't even about Isaac.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was made pretty clear halfway through the movie, too.
I didn't feel that.
We'll talk about it. This is Angel Studios. If you don't know Angel Studios, they're the people that um
Facing the Giants.
no, they didn't do Facing
No?
the Giants.
Oh, never mind.
Did they? No, Angel Studios is relatively new. This is like The Chosen.
Oh, okay.
I don't think they did Facing the Giants. Did
Who
they
did
do
Facing the Giants?
who produced Facing the Giants? We should watch that at some point because I think I saw it like when I was a kid. I'm sure I saw it when I was a kid. But yeah, the Kendricks. I
Okay,
don't know. I don't know who they are.
got it.
But this is produced by Angel Studios. Angel Studios did The Chosen, and what was that big one that Mel Gibson was a part of recently? And the guy who played Jesus in Mel Gibson's movie, The Passion. I can't think of his name right now, but it was about like sex trafficking and stuff like that, but also like America.
Oh, that one.
Yeah. What was it
Got
called?
it. Don't remember the name of it.
Good. It doesn't need any more advertising. It was
No.
not good.
And Angel Studios is also doing Animal Farm.
Yeah, that'll be something.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're talking about His Only Son.
Yes.
um, a lot went down in this is the adaptation of the Akedah. I want to talk about my first introduction to this because I think it's a fun story. But I took a class on rabbinic literature, and for my rabbinic literature class, we just focused on the Akedah, the binding of Isaac. And for the final of that class, we went to the professor's house and watched this movie because it was like coming out around the same time. But it was like hadn't quite come out yet, but they were like pushing it out to churches and stuff that were like doing like pre-screenings and stuff. So the Duke Jewish Studies Department had to register itself as the church of the Duke Jewish Studies Department so that we could like get this video to watch. And then we watched it for class, and then we all were like so disappointed because we're like, it's a chapter long. Like, how much stuff could they like? They can't make a movie out of chapter. They're gonna have to add some like stuff to it from like other sources. And we were like, I wonder like if they're gonna like look at rabbinic literature and like how are they gonna deal with that? No, they just made it all up on their own and they said we're gonna do our own thing. And we said, okay, cool. We'll think about it that way then. And it went wild. Well, apparently Abraham's a fighter. Who knew? But here we are. How do you want to start this? What do you want to talk about?
I don't even know where to begin. You go for it.
Cool. So the opening scene, I love. It's not a Christian movie. It's not a Christian produced movie if it doesn't start with like some words at the beginning before we can like really get into it. And we started with like Abraham has given faith to billions of people, and a full account of his life can be found in Genesis. Okay, cool. We get a full account of his life in Genesis. Who knew? And then after the credits, do you watch the credits, Jody?
E- Sometimes, not
Okay.
this time.
And then after the credits, it ended with everything seen here was based on historical events. And then like some liberties were taken for like, artistic liberties were taken, but everything here was based on historical events. And I giggled because this is not based on historical events unless you're like a biblical literalist that like needs this to be literal events. And they like or they like quoted Jesus at one point, and they're like, Jesus said this in 30 CE. They didn't say CE, they said 80. Jesus said this in 30 AD, and like then like flash back to like 2,000 years prior, because like for some reason they're like, we need to solidify this as a historic event that took place in time. This is not just a story, um, which I think is fascinating. The
Yeah.
need for these to be true historical events as opposed to true literary events, I think is
Mm,
fascinating. And in order to like depict this as a movie, we can't like let it be a literary or artistic creation. It has to be, this is historical,
yeah.
and we love to see it, and we love talking about that. But yeah, that was my first thoughts. Do you have first thoughts? I need your first thoughts.
You need my first thoughts. You need mine. I was happy with the costuming
Sure. There was
ish.
a lot of blue, a lot of fringe, um, a lot of eyeliner, and a lot of wigs.
So
That's
much
my
eyeliner.
that's my thought on the costuming.
So much eyeliner. I mean, my issues with the movie aren't even at the beginning. They're in the middle and the end.
Yeah.
It's the way Sarah's depicted. Oh, poor me, you laid with my slave. You you set that up. Who
Yeah.
set that system up, Sarah? Um, the flashing back between the Akedah and the other parts of Abraham's story did
Mm.
feel as erratic to me as reading the story of Abraham itself. So that was on track.
Yeah. Yeah.
That panned out. Ishmael, we didn't even see him,
Well, yeah, because his only son must only be Isaac.
and that pisses me off. That pisses
Yeah.
his only son. So we're just gonna throw Hagar and Ishmael away. I mean, fine. You've been
Yeah.
doing it for so many years. I guess I should have just expected you to do it in this too. But
Yeah.
the addition of these guys on the road just to like really reassert how terrible everyone else was.
Mhm.
Um, because they killed a man and took his daughter.
Yeah.
That was super fun.
Yeah.
Pro
Yeah.
slavery.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the pro slavery aspect?
I think we talk about all these things. I think
Okay.
I think if you want like hey, what happens in this story, listen to our episode on the Binding of Isaac. I want to say episode 51. Um, no, I want to say episode 46. Go back to episode 46, see what that is. If that's not about the Binding of Isaac, go find the episode about the Binding of Isaac and listen to that. But I think it could be more fun for us to just kind of like bounce back and forth around the different themes and claims that it was trying to make, rather than, looking at the actual plot, as they say, because summarizing is no fun. Talking about what they're trying to get across with the plot is much more fun. Was that right,
Yeah.
Jody?
You were so far off. I don't know how far off. I'm looking because I'm like, we did it with Faith. How long ago was that? It couldn't have been that long ago.
Might have been that long ago.
Might have been Faith. Let's do another episode.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Maybe not. So, anyways, what are we going to start with first?
Let's talk about slavery because that's
Okay.
an exciting conversation. What
Yeah.
are your thoughts on that?
It's so much better for us to live here with Abraham. It's just so much better than anywhere else. You want freedom? You're ridiculous. I was so annoyed.
Yeah,
And like at the beginning, I was like, oh, okay, so like these are just people that like live with him and like are a part of his like group. No, he owns them.
yeah. Like it was fascinating to me. Like I forget their names, but it's fascinating to me that they chose to depict these people that they were with, and instead of like shy away, because like so much of this movie is kind of like showing how perfect Abraham is.
Mm,
Like we really want to highlight how much faith Abraham has. Like, oh my goodness, this man has so much faith. He's so righteous. We love Abraham. And that's like one of the things that this movie was really hounding down on. So it surprised me that their take wasn't like, no, he didn't have slaves, but instead they were like, yes, he had slaves, and also the slaves should be grateful to him for being an enslaver.
Yeah.
And that was really, really weird to me. And like I watched this with my dad because why would you not watch this with a dad? And he was like, "Well, that's just how it was back then. That's how they have to depict it." I'm like, no, they made the intentional artistic choice to talk about slavery, talk about this, abhorrent, awful, awful practice, and justify it. They tried their best to justify it by saying, "Hey, Abraham is enslaving these people, but if he wasn't enslaving them, they would have had just such awful lives living in their homeland with freedom. Where else would they be?" Like I've seen so much with Christian apologetics, they do one of two things. They say, "Well, slavery was different back then; it wasn't that bad," or they say, "Well, slavery was just the time a product of the times. We have to like look past that." And like we eventually learned both are problematic. Like we
Yeah.
can look at that. We can look at slavery and them having slaves and be like, wow, that's really, really messed up. And that's very, very bad. And if you try to justify that in any sense, that's really bad and really messed up. So I have no idea what they were doing with that. I have no idea why they thought that we could. And like the slave was making really, the enslaved person was making a really, really good point. Like, hey, he's taking us away. He's treating my people oh so poorly. He's making these snap judgments about them, which oh just so happened to be right. And I thought it was awful. I thought it was horrible defense of slavery.
It's like they wanted to show the complexities of that world, but only
Yeah.
through the lens of Abraham's great.
No, it was that. No, I think that was great. They wanted to show the complexities of slavery, but then decided to say slavery is really complex, but also like we can be kind of cool with it.
Yeah.
And I think that's just abhorrent, but I digress.
No, because they did that same thing by having those guys from Hebron like walking the road,
Mhm.
like adding that in. They wanted to give a accurate historical kind of feel to it. Like what would it really have been like for Abraham to walk all that way for the sacrifice?
Yeah.
But the way it played out, it was Abraham propaganda.
Yeah, no, it was definitely Abraham propaganda. I think this movie, I think this idea has great, great potential to be like a psychological drama where like because I think Kierkegaard does this really well in his Fear and Trembling, where he like considers all these different possibilities of what that trek was with Abraham and Isaac. What did they talk about? What did they consider? Did Isaac know what was going to happen? And I think if we like pondered over that, I think that would have been a really, really good movie and made it this psychological drama instead of just like these random wide shots of like a computer generated sky and random, close-ups of Abraham who never had an emotion on his face. Like it was just this like, oh my goodness, Abraham is this revered character in our story, and he must be oh so very stern, oh so very, solemn, oh so very stoic. And we just kind of have to like make it kind of interesting. Like I think there's so much drama in the story itself that it could have really just, been in on that, but it got scared and it said, how can we insert this drama outside of it? And by doing that, they said the drama that we're going to insert is this kind of discussion on slavery, and we're going to come out of it pro-slavery. And also, there's going to be these horseback riders that are going to be of a different ethnic group that we're going to be really angry at, and they're going to be
and
really bad people.
and the random dude with the three enslaved sex workers.
Yeah,
Like I'm like for that shot you needed that?
yeah.
That was a necessary thing to put in there? I don't think so.
Yeah, no, and I think the point of that, trying to get into the mindset of the filmmakers, I think the point of that was to show the difference between the faithful, pure Abraham and the messed up outside world.
Oh yeah.
Because if you follow Abraham's faith, then you're going to be okay. You're going to, be this good, revered people. But all those other people that don't follow Abraham's faith are going to be depraved, horrible, bad people. And we see this with Mary, not Mary. Sorry, we see this with Sarah. Um, at one scene where she has like stones that she's kind of like praying to, and Abraham comes up to her and is like, "That's the old way. We don't do that anymore. If you follow my faith, my God, everything's going to be so right." And she's like, "Oh my goodness, Abraham, you're that's such a good point. Thank you so much." And um, and even the enslaved people, the the good one is like, "Oh my goodness, we now have this faith and we're now saved for it. Thank you so much." And then the rebellious enslaved worker is like, "But no, we have my own history and stuff." And they're like, "Yeah, well, I'm going to punch you in the face for it." So I think what we're definitely trying to put there from the filmmaker's perspective is we need to show the difference between us and them. And they don't have our faith. And therefore, they are depraved, wicked, horrible people.
God forbid we have some nuance, you know? Goodness.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then, I mean, and going back to Sarah, the way
Yeah. Let's
they
talk about
handled the
Sarah.
Sarah Hagar situation,
Mhm.
I hated it.
Yeah.
It wasn't fair to Hagar at all.
No.
But again, that's also us after us reading Texts of Terror and
Yeah.
thinking
Yeah.
about her story and her situation.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I'm like, I felt misogynist for a second. I was like, Sarah, you created this issue. You created this problem, this woman. And I was
Yeah.
like, no, no, grace and mercy. But then they wanted me to give her so much grace and mercy. I was like, I need a different scene.
Yeah. Well, they depicted Sarah as being hysterical and like blamed for everything, which I think is a common trope in these right-leaning Christian films where the woman is hysterical and the blame for all these problems and stuff. And we see like, oh my goodness, Sarah is the one that is like wishy-washy, like go have a child with Hagar. And then later is like, oh my goodness, how dare you have a child with Hagar? It very much putting the blame on her in that sense, which felt kind of weird. Um, and then Hagar. Did they ever mention her name? They did,
Yeah.
didn't they? Yeah. Um, to just kind of be a minor character seen in the background, essentially only. I don't know. I thought they handled that poorly, but that is, I think, because I've been so influenced by Phyllis Tribble's description of Hagar.
Yeah. They kept talking about covenants. I'm like, what about the covenant that was made with
Mhm.
Hagar? You
Yeah.
know, what about the promise that was made to her? That's important too. That's an important part of Abraham's story. And
Mhm.
to act like it isn't is ridiculous.
Right.
These people. But I mean, I did think Sarah had a good comeback when like Abraham was like, I refuted, I told you I would not. And she's like, you still slept with her.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's true. She did not force him to do that.
Right. Um, but I do think that this is I think they highlighted accidentally Phyllis Tribble's point on this, in that Hagar is used and abused and has no agency of her own, and then she is the one that gets banished and punished for all of this that happens. She did she have a line? Did she ever speak?
She didn't even speak.
Yeah, like or if she did, like it wasn't memorable. But she was this side character that was used and abused and punished. And I think how she was depicted in this film is very accurately how she's depicted in the Bible unintentionally, and how she's depicted in the Bible is problematic, and how she's depicted in this film is problematic. So they
I
did that
mean,
right accidentally.
they depicted her just the way she's depicted in like a church setting,
Right. Yeah.
like during Sunday service. So, I
Right.
mean,
Right.
was not shocked by it, upset and disappointed. Yes. So when
Right.
we have the money to make our own Hagar movie,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sarah will not speak at all.
Yeah.
And,
Well, speaking of speaking and laughing,
mm,
I this is a complete tangent, and we'll get back to like
yeah.
things that actually matter in a second.
Mm.
What I love about like Joseph the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat and stuff like that, is that they have fun with these films. They're like, how can we make this modern? And this film was so set on making it feel like a period piece, and like, and in the mind of this, they have to talk so formal and solemnly the entire time. And like the whole thing of Isaac is like the way he was named, Yitzhak, is like a pun on laughing because Sarah laughed after she told that. Like there was this movie was so serious. They were like, we can't. It felt like they were scared to make light of anything. They're like, this needs to be the most serious thing ever. And I would just wish there was like some like laughter here and there, something, not like jokes. I don't need
Yeah.
it to be jokes or anything, but I just wish that they felt that they had the liberty to not take it so seriously.
I mean, how much more provoking would it have been if they had given Isaac and Abraham a relationship that had comfortability and levity
Mm, yeah.
to show a true bond between father and son? It would show just how much harder this
Hmm.
choice, this decision was for Abraham to make. But he felt so detached from his son.
No, they all felt so detached. It didn't feel like they had any personalities of their own whatsoever. It was how can we kind of appear solemn and
Yeah.
stoic? Yeah.
Because this is a very serious story, and we must make it historically accurate because this is all very true. And that's not what gives these stories their meaning and their
Yeah.
passion.
Right, right.
They lost the human in it.
Yeah. And I think that's what like the Prince of Egypt did really well. Like I think the Prince of Egypt walked that line really well in that it was serious. They depicted all the things that they thought was serious that should be taken seriously, but also they're able to play with it. They're able to say, this is an adaptation.
Hmm.
And how are we going to make this adaptation modern and applicable to the situation instead of being like, oh my goodness, how we have to only talk like or like in 1832.
I mean, the most human it got was when the slave who was not happy being a slave said that Ishmael was his friend
Yeah.
and that they should remember Ishmael. That's as close to human as I felt it got the
Mm-hmm.
entire movie. Like, yeah, Isaac was upset that that guy died because his daughter was taken
Mm-hmm.
to be a slave, but they're just I don't know. It
Yeah.
was detached. Oh, I will say I did love the moment between Sarah and Isaac where she was like, "You're going to leave your mother without giving her a kiss," and that was like the last time I felt humanity
Yeah.
from that family. And then they just went on
Mm-hmm.
their way.
And to kind of move the conversation along,
Yeah.
one thing that I really wanted from this film was like representations from like rabbinic literature because there's
Mhm.
a huge tradition of like asking like what actually happened and stuff like that. And one of my favorite things in like rabbinic literature and other literature is asking the question, what did Sarah feel during all of this?
Yeah.
And like, sure, we get the beginning, oh my goodness, bye, Isaac, yada, yada, yada. But like, there's so many, like, my favorite, I forget where it is, but Abraham's like worrying, how am I going to tell Sarah what happens? Like, I can't tell her when I get home because she might fall off the roof out of grief, which I think is just like this funny idea that, like, because like their conception of the houses back then was like the upper roof where you could like stand and hang out and you didn't want to fall off that. But of course, we had to like show that it was really, really old. So they were in tents, which I thought
Yeah.
was like annoying. That annoyed me. I didn't like that they were in tents.
It didn't make sense to me,
No.
especially after having read the Abraham section, and it kind of seemed like he had his own like town,
Yeah, no,
village kind of
like
situation.
right, no. Abraham for some reason has enslaves dozens, if not hundreds of people, but also just kind of lives in a tent. But it wasn't adding up, but that's beside the point. That's just me being pedantic. Um,
I don't think so, but
but yeah, I wish that they would have like relied on other interpretations to like fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
uh, whether that have been rabbinic literature or some other resource. I don't know.
I know it's
But
like they just pulled that part out of Genesis and said, let's just add some things here and there, do some flashbacks between
yeah.
them. It'll be fine.
And I think that represents the very Protestant view of this movie, the Protestant way to make this movie, in that they want to keep sola scriptura as much as they can. It's only the Bible, only the scripture. And when you get influenced by outside sources, that's scary and you can't do that. So instead of being influenced by, or instead of consciously being influenced by these outside sources, they said, okay, we're going to keep this as true as possible. And whenever we need to like add something to like move the plot along or do anything, it's going to be our own little creation. Because if we're influenced by other resources, that can be scary.
Yeah. No, it was yeah. Let's talk about a good part of the movie real
Okay,
quick.
go for it.
My favorite part of the movie is when Isaac's asking Abraham what they will be sacrificing.
Yeah.
And Abraham goes to the part where he says, the Lord provides for us. And then it
uh-huh.
switches to the flashback of Isaac being born.
Hmm.
That was, I thought that was a good choice.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Like, that was good.
No, for sure. And again, they were quoting the Bible directly there. They're like, oh my goodness. Uh, I think that would have been a lot more fun for a conversation to happen at the beginning of the trip.
Mm.
Uh, and that would have been like, oh, a psychological drama. But no,
Oh,
but
okay.
no, we had it at the very end. And but yeah, do you want to talk about the Jesus of it all?
I I was struggling to stay awake this entire movie. And like it was getting towards the end, I looked down at my phone and I look back up and there's a crucifix. And I had to rewind. Connor's like, it says 2,000 years later. I'm like, what the heck? What are we doing here in
Yeah.
Rome? But go
So
off.
yeah, stop me when I talk too much.
Okay.
But it's very common in Christian circles to look at the story of Abraham and Isaac as an allegory, kind of, preempting Jesus. Just as um, Abraham's own son was sacrificed, Jesus, God's son, is going to be sacrificed.
Isaac
And
wasn't Abraham's only son.
we'll get into that. And at one point, Abraham is talking with Isaac and the enslaved people with him, and he like breaks the bread, and he's like very clearly referenced like the Last Supper, and then he starts talking about like substitutionary atonement theory, but like in parallel terms that would like be somewhat relevant to their conversation. And it was at that moment. I don't think I picked up on it on the first time I watched this, but it was that moment I was like, oh, they're just making this a complete allegory for Christianity. To them, to the makers of this film, Isaac is nothing more than a representation of Jesus. And we see that in the confrontation with the horsemen who have the girl who died, where Isaac said, "Well, take me for her. Like I'll be the substitution." I think was his exact word, which is so theologically loaded because they're definitely pushing like substitutionary atonement theory. Uh, and have we done an episode on atonement theories yet?
No.
Easter. That's gonna be our Easter episode.
Oh, cool.
So like he was for sure doing that, and then like, did you notice how Isaac was carrying the wood?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much in like a cross pose for sure. And they really wanted to hone in on Isaac being this Jesus figure who is without fault, without blemish, and is being sacrificed for someone else. For he was a just take me for the girl, it'll be my sins. An animal wouldn't do the job because it has to be human, yada yada yada. And then it ends with, you know, the crucifix with Jesus on the hill, obviously. And then we're like, let's quote the New Testament now, which frustrates me because, and this is just me being the way that
That's
I
not.
am.
That's not.
If we are telling a story of, I don't know, let's talk about, um, let's say Sherlock Holmes. Let's say we're we're depicting Sherlock Holmes,
Hmm.
and we're doing Sherlock Holmes doing all of his investigating and his talking and his discovering, and then at the very end, we're like, also, like, oh,
This
I'm
is
drawing a
about
blank.
Benoit Blanc.
Yes, yes. At the very end, it's like, actually, this is about Benoit Blanc. And that annoys me. Like, I want to be able to appreciate the material for the material. But for Christianity, it's so hard. And Faith even talked about this on our episode about the Akedah, that
Hmm.
it's so hard for Christians to separate this from Jesus. Like, this is 100% connected in the minds of Christians with Jesus, and it's inseparable. And I wish we were able to talk about these things as their own entity and respect them as their own thing.
Yeah.
And like I get it. Like they're making these artistic choices. I think that's fine that they made these choices. Cool. It's the choices that were made. It's not how I would do it, and that doesn't mean it was bad because they made those choices. You know, them defending slavery and other stuff, that's what made it bad. But like this one is just like something that I just really wish people could, you know, respect the Hebrew Bible for the Hebrew Bible and not have to say, well, yeah, this is an Old Testament story, but also remember the New Testament. Let's just appreciate the source text for the source text.
I think it diminishes them both when they do that. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I felt like it diminished the story of Abraham and Isaac to bring Jesus into it.
yeah,
I feel like it the movie itself, while terrible, it was made even worse by going to the crucifixion.
yeah,
It just, it did not make sense.
yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you.
It
I
felt very
don't,
forced.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was because I don't understand why we can't have a good Old Testament movie.
Hmm.
Like, it, sorry, I keep
Yeah.
thinking about this movie and I keep getting upset.
No, it's fine. And I think it's a bit unrealistic of us to expect that.
Yeah.
Not because well, because I think in order to make a movie relevant or a movie good, you have to have it reflect something of the times, something relevant to the
Mhm.
modern perspective. And I think you're going to get anytime you're adapting the biblical text, you're going to reflect some of the religion that considers it holy to some extent. So you're going to reflect some of the Judaism, you're going to reflect some of the Christianity. So I don't think it's possible or reasonable for us to ask of it to say just depict the Old Testament. I think we've talked about that earlier in our episodes. We can't expect that, but what we can expect is them to try a little harder.
Just, and it was just so frustrating to me because once they did go to the crucifixion, it really made the whole movie about Jesus, especially with the title His Only Son.
Mm,
Because I was like, that title doesn't fit for Abraham. He
yeah.
has two sons.
Well, I mean, famously, the Hebrew text, the Genesis depiction describes Isaac as his only son,
I know.
um, which is a way to kind of distance Ishmael from the whole thing.
Yeah, because
My
everyone
favorite thing,
hates.
some rabbinic literature, they like add like dialogue, and God's like, "Take your son," and Abraham says, "What son?" And God says, "Your only son." And Abraham's like, "My only son with Sarah, or my only son with Hagar?" And God's like, "Your only son that you love." And he's like, "Oh, Isaac." Which again, problematic, but a fun little rabbinic
Yeah.
literature thing.
Yeah. It's so fun how Abraham's a deadbeat dad. My
Yeah,
goodness. Okay. Well,
yeah. I don't know. I think there's potential for this movie if, and it could have been better if we weren't like defending slavery, and if it opened itself up to be a little more fun.
yeah. Some levity. My eyes were drooping. I
Yeah.
was like, it's
No, it
just
was.
taking itself too seriously, yet not seriously enough.
Yeah. Well said. Very well said.
Do you think this is a religious movie or a movie that depicts religion?
I think this is religious, but not in a good sense.
I can stand behind that.
Yeah.
It,
Oh,
yeah,
but yeah. And what was your rating?
1 star.
Ooh, I gave it half a star.
Oh,
I will say the first time I watched this, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I
mm,
gave it 1.5 stars, and I don't know why I was feeling so generous that day.
apparently you were.
The defense of slavery really upset me, and I think justifiably so.
Yeah, I would say so. Any last minute
Yeah.
thoughts?
Um, I think one thing that I did appreciate was that they showed the embodiment of God.
Hmm.
I think that was really neat and really good because that's something you don't see very often, especially in like Protestant areas.
Hmm.
So while we never saw God's face, we never saw like any of that, we saw God in a bodily form. And I thought that was a bold choice and a choice that I appreciated.
Yeah. I did. I can get behind that. I do
Yeah.
prefer when Morgan Freeman is God, but can't have everything you want.
Can't have everything we want. No.
Can't have everything you want. Well, we good?
We're good.
Thank you all for coming and listening to us at the Religious Treehouse. You can find us on TikTok, Facebook, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, YouTube, Instagram, Bluesky, and email us at thereligioustreehouse@gmail.com. If you take the time to watch this movie, and you're like, hey, you guys are being real dramatic about your analysis, tell us that. Let us know. But I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again.
Yeah, that's what I said the first time I watched it, but here we are.
But here we are. We will
All
see
right.
you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.